Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to be with you. My name is Jess Kwong, and I'm the head of strategy at John Luke. We are a branding agency, and we specialize in ad tech and martech and the audio space. So very excited to be with you. So, this is not working. Sorry about that. So today we're going to be talking about shaping irresistible brands. What does brand mean to the creators, to the last experts in this lost art of having a conversation? What does it mean to the marketers, to the advertisers, to the brand owners who just want to build a passionate following? I'm not going to feed you some AI slop, I promise. This came from my own soft brain. I just want you to consider a relatively simple idea. Inclusion is dead. The I in DEI, if it hadn't become functionally illegal to operate based on this principle in 2025, it has certainly become obsolete. I don't mean in terms of our broader societal goals towards equity and opportunity, but I do mean in the context of branding. Brands that try to speak to everyone actually just end up tokenizing. Vanishingly few brands actually have inclusion as part of their values DNA. We live in a deeply decentralized world where the mass market has ceased to exist. Everything we know about attention and persuasion is changing in a world that is buckling under permacrisis and drowning in the fire hose of content and teetering on the brink of a wholesale reorganization of the economy based on AI. So if that's where we are, what's the way forward? If inclusion is dead, how do we build irresistible brands that thrive in the minds of our listeners, of our audiences? What's the path into the future? So first, we would recommend to focus on your niche. Brands that try to speak to everybody actually end up speaking to no one. Creators know this intuitively. This idea of authentic community that we have heard a lot about in the last week is by its very nature exclusionary. Some are going to belong and some won't. And focusing on your niche does not mean that you don't welcome people who are interested in it. It just means that you are very laser focused on who is part of your community and who is not. So sorry, I lost my way a little bit. How do you figure out who your niche is? Your niche starts with you. It is defined by the values that you hold, by the experiences that you've had. And focusing on your niche will allow you to reach people in a much more powerful way. How do you grow your niche then if we're not trying to include or speak to everybody? Remember that big niches are made up of little niches. So you reach a lot more people more powerfully if you partner with brands and with creators that have a very strongly defined niche. And that works even if, and especially if, they aren't necessarily related to your niche. So we've had a lot of talk about millennial cringe in the last little while. That was a big topic of conversation last night. And that song, Home, I don't know if y'all remember it. I'm not going to sing it for you. I'll spare you that. But at the moment that Stomp Clap was reaching its heyday, mashup culture was also at its peak. And I know this because I was a DJ in London at the time. And we found that weirder the juxtaposition, the more bizarre, the more people loved it. So if you could take Dirty South rap and mix it with Fleetwood Mac and the theme song from Friends, you were golden. Why did that work? It was because people who are fed sameness over and over again by the algorithm are actually delighted to be exposed to something new. See if that can work for you, if you can build a big niche out of little niches. Which brings me to my second principle, which is build those partnerships, but let them cook. This is why the era of the brand guideline is over. Companies love a brand guideline. We are a branding agency and we love a brand guideline. We love to imagine that everybody is going to care deeply about the hex code and the pixel and the lockup, and this is fundamentally antithetical to the principle that's at the bedrock of every creative discipline, which is creative control. When you build those partnerships, when you're collaborating, whether you're advertising or creating a partnership with somebody, let them express themselves in a way that is natural to them. They are not going to sound like your head of comms, and that will ensure that their message is a lot more memorable than anything that you could have fed them. Why do Pod Save America ads work so well, specifically on me? I've got the Armora Colostrum, I've got the AG1, I've got the Simply Safe system, I've got the Squarespace site, I've got the Magic Spoon. Why? It's because somewhere in that agreement is a clause that says, if you feed them bad copy, they will read it, but they're going to make fun of it. And that is going to ensure that I remember it when I am shopping for another breakfast cereal or a supplement. So when you build partnerships, let them cook. And finally, think of your communities as your co-creators. That doesn't mean just get in the comments. That means really reimagine how you involve your communities in part of the creative process. So we're going to play a quick game, not really a game, but guess the brand. It was founded in 1949. It was based on the motto, only the best is good enough. And in 2003, it was in deep trouble. It was $800 million in debt. It was hemorrhaging $1 million per day. But by 2015, it was making $1.4 billion in profit. Anybody have a guess? That brand was Lego. In 2003, Lego was in a lot of trouble. Its company was way overstretched. It was failing. It was trying to operate a failing theme park. It was making a clothing line and video games. But fundamentally, the problem was that it completely lost sight of why its customers chose it. And so, Lego embarked on a deep listening project. I don't know if anyone caught Elsie Escobar's wonderful talk yesterday, but she talked about when you're rebranding, take a step back. Listen so that you can have a chance to really understand the environment that you're operating in, the listeners, and gather that intel. So Lego did that. It spent thousands of hours gathering intelligence on its customers, watching kids play with Legos. And what it found was that it's not just about fun. It is not just about play, and it's not really just about kids. I spent the weekend playing Legos with my 3-year-old nephew, and let me tell you, it was not just about fun. Not in the way that a slide or a water park is about fun. It was challenging. It was occasionally maddening, and sometimes painfully so, as anyone who has ever stepped their full weight onto a sharp-edged brick of plastic will tell you. But what we got from it was this sense of personal accomplishment, And Lego discovered that what its consumers were choosing it for was this pursuit of personal mastery. From 3 years old all the way up to 30 years old. That sense of accomplishment is something that is very rare and is something that most toy companies don't even come close to. So Lego took this research and it leaned into it. It gave its customers an opportunity to pitch new sets, which if they got enough votes, they would create them. It made the Minecraft set based on that, one of its most popular. It also celebrated its fan communities. So it created events where its AFOLs, its adult fans of Legos, could celebrate their creativity. And within about a decade later, it was making $1.4 billion in profit and has only continued to grow. Lego went from near bankruptcy to being a cultural phenomenon and one of the most profitable toy companies in the world. And it did that by refocusing on its niche, by celebrating instead of stifling creativity, and by making its community its co-creators. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jess. So to kick off about the Lego example, there's a few more things that I want to add, and goes under the branding blueprint. When you're looking at branding, it seems like there's a bit of a duality of how we see the world, especially in business. We have Y Combinator saying something like, build something people want. Meanwhile, Steve Jobs says something almost the opposite. People don't know what they want. Which goes about, how do you go in solving a rebrand? How do you go about it to make sure that you're going to avoid the pitfalls, that you're going to connect to the consumers, and that it's going to resonate with the audience and eventually build brand equity? Well, that's the key point, is brand equity. How do you measure brand equity? Well, there's two main forms to look at. And so we have internal equity and we have external equity. Internal equity has to do with your customers, first and foremost, right? What are they experiencing? How are they feeling? What's the net promoter score? What's their experience that they're having? And then your team. What's your team feeling? What's the experience that's happening internally? What's your reputation? Externally, external equity has to do with what's the landscape? What does the competition look like? What's the market? How is it moving? Where are the opportunities lie? So when we look at the opportunities, we look at both one side versus the other side. And you can go both ways. You can start with internal or you can start with external. The Lego example is a great example. So we have interlocking plastics. Their brand positioning back when they were failing was based on fun, right? They wanted to revitalize into a sustainable future. Their target audience were children, and sometimes they explored with adults and different things. But what do we know about their unique value proposition of fun? Well, it's not really unique, is it? If you're looking at all the toys around the world, almost all of them would say fun. So there was a big brand shift after they did this listening exercises and interviewed children playing and understanding that fun was wrong. And that's where the shift happened. So you can see that they went from fun and they pivoted over to the pursuit of personal mastery. Now, what do you see here is you see a key brand mission that has its core pivot. But also, what don't you see? Well, you don't see a logo change, right? They have narrowed down their focus and they have decided, okay, our product line has to be about pursuit of personal mastery because fun isn't just enough. Now, what's another way of going with branding? So here, this is an internal exercise that have concluded with Legos, and an external exercise we had here in the podcasting industry. But before I get to that, how do we test it? So testing is a bit complicated. If things are very, very different. You can check out this chart over here. Things are very, very different. You will see that they don't test well. If things are good or not good, it doesn't matter, right? You will see that into the results. So Podsense was the Google AdSense for podcasting. They wanted to provide podcasters with full control and monetization and build an approachable brand. Now, when we look at competitors, what do we look at? It gets confusing, right? There's a lot of competitors. There's a big landscape. So there's a key blueprint here. It's called scissors, rock, and paper. Now, a scissors company is when a company starts out, it cuts through the crowd, it cuts through paper with a narrow focus. A rock company beats a scissors company because it has systems in place, it's high growth. And a paper company beats a rock company because of sheer mass, and it could just drown out the rock company. So this is the growth cycle. First you are scissors, then you're rock, and then you're paper. Now, the most common problem that we see happening is that people see this as also a competition cycle. The growth cycle going this way is not the competition cycle, because if you are a scissors and you try to compete against rock, you will lose. So the competition cycle goes in the opposite direction. When you are scissors, you want to compare yourself against paper. You want to talk about how you have narrow focus, how you are quick. You don't want to talk about how you can cover sheer mass, because you can't. Now, if you're a rock company, you want to compete against scissors. You want to talk about how you have the systems in place and how you've been durable and you've been through it, right? And if you're a paper company, then it's clear to avoid the scissors. So with this podcasting agency, we looked at the paper companies, as this was the scissors companies, and we found that a lot of the B2B players were actually quite boring. There was not a lot of approachability. And we thought, okay, how can we uniquely stand out? What can we bring to life as a podcast monetization tool? So we looked at like the banking industry and other tools, and we thought, wow, this is really, really lame, right? And so when it comes to podcast monetization, we thought, well, what can we bring to life that sounds like business, that looks like money, So we think about typical stereotypes. Suits, right? You go to a bank, you deal with a teller who's wearing a suit. And we looked at a bunch of different animals, and we thought, what animal means business? And we did a pretty extensive research to look at different animals and different categories of brands and whatnot. And we came up to a simple conclusion, which is maybe seems a little bit unlikely, but it was penguins. And this is what led us to the rebrand of Podsense. So, here it is. Is the audio playing? So that's Podsense that just recently launched. And you can see that some other ad techs have yielded really great results while working with us. And to kick this off, what's the opportunity in your brand? Internal equity versus external equity. So we would love for you to tell us how we did, and essentially we can give you the downloaded presentation as well. Please feel free to use the QR code. And we would love to have a one-on-one with you as well. Yeah. Any questions?
Okay, we'll be over here afterwards. If anybody wants to come chat with us, we'd love to say hi and see how you're doing. Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you.